I think we're gonna try the half part.
What? Let's get the show on the road.
Oh. That's a little bit more work. Depending on the shoe.
Yeah.
That amendment.
Is this for real?
Well, he probably was.
I know that it's
Well,
pretty pretty. That's
You
hear me like a bicycle?
the thing.
Has it happened yet on this side?
No, the house is really good.
You have.
I know they're being leaders of this village.
I have to. I'm the one going.
How's it going?
You haven't come over there? Oh. We're going to work. I'll let you know.
No, you can't.
Okay.
So you want to skin it here, go like this.
They love when you kill them on the property.
You got it under your toe.
I should have said it out loud.
Just be glad we didn't turn it into a show and tell. God,
Bill.
I already said.
How are you?
I gotta go see the library meeting.
Oh, let me talk to
Realize this while it's rolling, I'll understand the rules.
That's real. Is there a problem had a lot of things? Yes. We do. We were right now. Oh. That is like
That'd be awesome.
Sorry.
Generally not.
Oh, it's
I'm gonna be right here, and I'll be right back. We already have one dog.
Plan on it. Time you're 4 months later, then we'll start. And the room will be vaccinated. It's not really our problem.
Not putting anything in writing like that.
You saw that.
This is what I say outside. How do you
I gotta come home. Round trip. In all seriousness, I was surprised that I didn't get my back. We're together for a while, and I don't know whether or not we can stand each other. Right, that's good.
Yeah, well. I don't. Not to promote.
Well, I was running for a while. I am like, I used to do since like,
Yeah, that's what
Yeah. Huh?
I feel your story. I remember that clearly.
Like, the real thick, real.
Yeah.
Well, I had access. One of my brothers, I had access to it, and it's a girl like that, but the other one's like a little.
No.
Awesome.
Overnight.
Overnight, really?
Doing a big one.
Yeah, you know. That's right.
Last time I brought people, we lost two of them. They both like just had to leave. Like freaked out. It's very stronger back.
There's already like. Yeah, absolutely. I'll work this Saturday, I'll work it, I'll work it. You guys can work it out. There's some of the big league, I'll work it. When you fill up like that, there's some that to do it, I want to.
How long do they? Do you guys have to go to the start?
Yeah, but you know, they'll also go to, but I would do it, you know.
That's one to do it. My team's so. Oh, yeah.
You get to do a pitch. Part of that difference is they now have 15 police in the states, so like one match transfer was year to year. Somebody called something, if you want to run tour in 2 years, we couldn't do that now. So that's part of the I try to even if I don't think that's what it was, I have I know how crazy that sounds. Yeah.
Go back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It sounds so fascinating.
Your committee on emerging issues will now come to order. Please call the roll.
I've been waiting 15 minutes, now it's my fault? I knew it.
Chairman Hart.
Here.
Representative Cross. Representative Bonding. Representative Colonna. Representative Hanson.
Here.
Representative Hicks.
Here.
Representative LaFever.
Here.
Representative Lance. Representative Munsell. Representative Pace.
Here.
Representative Rowden. Representative Zaire. We have a quorum.
Court being established, we will now move into executive session. I move that you pass House Bill 939. This is Representative Cleary's ticket purchaser protection bill. I don't believe we have any amendments on this one. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, to discuss.
Go ahead.
I think a number of the concerns were presented during testimony were mine. I spoke with a number of folks since the hearing, and I think the findings of the bill, the follow-ups from my concerns.
Further discussion? Representative Cross.
Real quick, Mr. Chairman, and I want to make sure I understand this right. If this is the case, I will support it. This is basically a protection. If somebody buys a, let's say, a voucher online, the fact that they can sell that to another individual and use it, plus they can get the $50 back or $100. They're not out any money. And I want to make sure that I understand this correctly.
That's my understanding of the bill.
Because what my teacher's concerns, and that's why I'm bringing this to the surface.
That's my understanding of the bill.
With that, I'll support it. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Representative Hanson?
Yeah, my understanding, just so I'm right on this, that somebody buys tickets to, let's see, Willie Nelson. Willie did. And they buy them over the ticket stub or whatever. Understanding now that they can't give that ticket to me, they'd be in violation of how that works. But if this bill passes, they would be allowed to give me that ticket?
Would the bill handler like to answer these
Yeah,
questions?
I'm glad to address that. If the purchaser buys a ticket that's classified as a restricted ticket now, currently, today as the law stands, they are unable to do what they want to do with that ticket. So they can't sell it or give it away or donate it or whatever. So what this bill would do is allow the holder of a restricted ticket the ability to give it away or do whatever they want to with their ticket.
Pretty well with it.
Free market.
My address. will give her-
Further discussion on House Bill 939? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Chairman Hart. Representative Cross.
Yes.
Representative Bonding.
Aye.
Representative Colonna.
Aye.
Representative Hanson. Representative Hicks. Representative LaFever.
Aye.
Representative Lance. Representative Munsell. Representative Pace. Representative Rowden. Representative Zaire.
By your vote of 9-0, you do pass House Bill 939. I now move that we do pass House Bill 1247. This is Representative Lance bill dealing with sex offenders. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Chairman Hart.
Aye.
Representative Cross.
Yes.
Representative Bondon. Representative Colonna.
Yes.
Representative Hanson. Representative Hicks. Representative LaFever.
Aye.
Representative Lance. Representative Munsell. Representative Pace. Representative Rowden. Representative Zaire.
By your vote of 9-0, you do pass House Bill 1247. By your vote of 8-1, you do pass House Bill 1247. I now move we do pass House Bill 1330. This is Representative Cross's bill dealing with rental agreements and security deposits. Any discussion? 1330.
Do I have an amendment?
Seeing no discussion, please call the roll.
Chairman Hart.
Aye.
Representative Cross.
Aye.
Representative Bodden.
Aye.
Representative Colonna.
No.
Representative Hanson.
Aye.
Representative Hicks.
Aye.
Representative LaFever.
Aye.
Representative Lance. Representative Munsell. Representative Pace. Representative Rowden. Representative Zaire. Representative Lance.
It's your bill.
What's your bill? If you want to vote, we're voting. By your renovation.
7 to 2. Or no, 8 to 2.
Sorry.
This is actually Gary Cross's. By your vote of 8-2, you do pass House Bill 1330. I now move we do pass House Bill 964. This is Representative Barr's bill regarding modifying provisions related to JCAR. Any discussion on?
Yes.
Representative Colonna.
Mr. Chairman, I think, I guess I'm the only person that sits on JCAR here in the room. At least the way that we have been practically running the committee, we can do these things now. There's a question as to whether or not JCAR is even constitutional. And I think we have a real delicate balance at the moment, where the executive branch is playing nicely. Folks in the bureaucracy are playing nicely. Interest groups throughout the state that are affected by some of the rules that are promulgated are playing nicely. They all look at JCAR kind of as this body that is doing good work right now. And my fear is if we tag some additional things in statute on really what the committee's already doing, it might affect that delicate balance that we have, and maybe litigate JCAR out of existence. I don't necessarily disagree with what the representative wants to do. I just think it's something that we're already doing, and I don't want to, in essence, upset the apple cart. So with that, I'll be willing to know, but just my 2 cents.
Representative LaFever.
To comment.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think there's, in addition to the comments made by Representative Colonna, I think that there's some really ambiguous language included in here about whether the rule is contrary to the clear intent of the General Assembly, and then there's something about whether the proposed rule is efficient as revealed by a cost-benefit analysis. There's no direction of who conducts that analysis or where it comes from. I think that this sends us in the opposite direction than we can go, and I'll be voting now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Further discussion on the bill? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Chairman Hart.
Aye.
Representative Cross.
Aye.
Representative Bodden. Representative Colonna. Representative Hanson. Representative Hicks.
Aye.
Representative LaFever.
No.
Representative Lance.
Aye.
Representative Munsell.
Aye.
Representative Pace. Representative Rowden.
Aye.
Representative Zaire.
By your vote of 7-4, you do pass House Bill 964. I now move we do pass House Joint Resolution 41. Representative LaFever.
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment I'd like to offer.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have an amendment that's been distributed. It ends in .01H, and I move for its adoption.
Discussion on the amendment.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
This amendment was the result of a conversation that we had with the resolution sponsor.
his language said that you have to meet once a month, or you have to meet once a month, and you have to meet annually, or you have to meet in each legislative or each congressional district. And the language was a little ambiguous about whether you had to meet in each congressional district every month or whether it was every year. And so I worked with our analysts to craft this legislation to make sure it was, we're not going to every single congressional district each month, but that we're going to go to each congressional district once a year, and there will be a meeting once a month somewhere. We're just not having, what, 6 times 12, whatever that is, not in budget, in budget. Thank you.
Representative Cross.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The way I thought the bill was presented was, in each congressional district, okay, was once a year.
Mhm.
That's what I thought I understood, unless I missed something. So,
That was the intent, but that was not what was included in the language.
the intent was one thing, but what was in the language is another, is what you're saying.
Right, and so I worked with the analysts to make sure that we,
Your amendment, Representative Flavor, is, I want to make sure I
to
understand.
do what the sponsor wanted,
I'm sorry,
to carry out the intent.
you're at the intent. Okay, thank you then for your amendment.
Yep.
Further discussion? On the amendment, seeing none. All those in favor of the amendment, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. I now move we do pass House Joint Resolution 41 as amended. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Chairman Hart.
Aye.
Representative Cross.
Aye.
Representative Bonded.
Aye.
Representative Clon.
Aye.
Representative Hanson.
Aye.
Representative Hicks. Representative LaFever.
Aye.
Representative Lant.
Aye.
Representative Munsell.
Aye.
Representative Pace. Representative Rowden.
Aye.
Representative Zares.
Your vote of 11-0, you do pass House Joint Resolution 41. I now move we do pass House Bill 1183. This is Representative Jones' bill regarding CBD oil. Representative LaFever.
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment I'd like to offer.
Which amendment is that?
Mr. Chairman, it ends in .02H.
02H, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment. It ends in .02H. It's been distributed. I move for its adoption.
Discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pursuant to the conversation that we had in committee, this is presenting a clear issue for the docs at Children's Mercy Hospital in St. Louis, and to make sure that they are protected from legal liability prior to August 28th, I'm adding an emergency clause to the legislation. Be happy to take any questions.
Further discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Representative Colonna.
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment that's been previously distributed. It ends in .01H, and I move for its amendment, or for its adoption. Mr. Chairman,
Discussion on the amendment, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, this amendment deals with the section that defines what the responsibilities are for the governing body and/or committee. I think there's a colorful argument that if we enact legislation the way it's presently written, we're giving blanket immunity to these folks. So after chatting with the bill sponsor and some of the interested parties, everybody is fine with adding the language in this amendment. And all the language does is put the phrase "and in good faith" in the paragraph. In my opinion, that guarantees that as long as your governing body or board is acting in good faith of what their understanding of the rules and the regulations that have been promulgated are, then they're offered that immunity. And if there are no further questions, I read my motion.
Further discussion on the amendment?
Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Amendment passes. Further discussion on House Bill 1183. Seeing none, please call the roll. 1183 as amended, please call the roll.
Representative Hart.
Aye.
Representative Cross.
Aye.
Representative Bodden.
Aye.
Representative Quillen.
Aye.
Representative Hanson.
Aye.
Representative Hicks. Representative LaFave.
Aye.
Representative Lance.
Aye.
Representative Munkel.
Aye.
Representative Pace. Representative Rowden.
Aye.
Representative Zaire.
I now move we do pass House Bill 1138. This is Representative Rhodes' unauthorized substance excise tax. There is an amendment in .01H that's been distributed. The bill sponsor is here to talk about the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Basically what the amendment does, we're talking about like minimum threshold of like 7 grams or 10 grams of a vanilla substance. We're going to put it to 1 gram. We're going to add synthetic cannabinoids to it. We're taking out hemp and moving it to dosage units. If instead of 10 dosage units, 35 grams down to 1 gram. And also in the bill, it says if you were arrested and then you didn't have the stamp and you had 48 hours to go get the stamp, we're going to take that out as well.
I'd answer any questions. Questions for the bill handler on the amendment, Representative Favor. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Remind me, or help me understand again what we're doing about 7 to 1, 7 grams to 1 gram, or 35 to 1.
In the bill, it said if you had over 35 grams, that you would be issued the tax if you didn't have the tax stamp. This drops it to 1 gram.
And so anybody below 35 wouldn't have to do the stamp unless this passes.
Correctly.
We talked about this a little bit. I'm concerned that this goes in the opposite direction of our conversation.
Sure.
So I'll oppose your amendment, and with the addition of this, I'm more opposed to the bill than I was before.
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions for the bill handler on the amendment or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adding amendment .01H to the underlying bill, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
The ayes have it. Discussion on the underlying bill 1138. Representative LaFavor.
Comment.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think in theory, what we're trying to do here is probably not a bad idea. What I'm worried about are the unintended consequences. And right now in the state of Missouri and other places, there's some concern that we add on fees and fines and things to low-level criminal offenses, and that burdens people into a cycle, permanently being in the cycle of the judicial system. I fear that this is another passage of this would take us another step in that direction of adding on more fees and fines to low-level offenses, and I think that this amendment that we just passed takes us further down that road, and I'm really concerned about this bill. And I think that many of us should be, particularly given the environment that we're sitting in, based on some of the issues that we're seeing in some of the municipalities in and around St. Louis. And I'll be voting no. And I think that this has the real potential to create a messaging nightmare for the legislature and how we're responding to some serious issues that happen in our state. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Further discussion on 1138. Representative Cross.
Yeah, I'd like this, Representative Bigger question.
I do.
You have some concerns about some unintended consequences, okay? Could you give me, maybe on a small scale, a simple example, so I can all go with you on this?
Yeah, somebody who gets arrested for a small amount of marijuana.
5 grams, 3 grams? What?
Yeah, sure. 5 or 5, 3, whatever it is. And that fine, there are current criminal fines and penalties associated with that. There's up to a year in jail, up to a $5,000 fine, a number of these things that happen. Now we're adding a new criminal offense and a new fine onto that possession. So we've already had fines and offenses on the offense to begin with, and now we're adding more onto that. I worry that instead of really combating drug and alcohol abuse and the problems that are associated with it, what we will do is continue to perpetuate that cycle of folks being in the criminal justice system and less easily being able to get out of and moving on as a productive member of society.
Okay, sir.
Now, if we're talking big drug dealers and they're not paying, taxes on 10 kilos or something like that, it's a different story. But when we're talking about folks walking around with dime bags, continuously putting them into the criminal justice system more than they already are, I think that's going to present a handful of real serious issues.
Do you think a guy with like a dime bag, let's say, first time event, okay, he's busted, okay? Keep going, I want to hear you. I want to make sure I'm staying with you here.
Oftentimes they would submit to some sort of diversion program, certainly for a first-time offense. I'm not sure how this would work if they're in violation of tax law as well, whether that would apply to their diversionary or suspended imposition of sentences that they had previously.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Representative Hanson.
Could you look back and tell me how many people testified in favor of this bill versus opposed?
3 in favor and 0 opposed.
3 in favor, 3 opposed. We're short on time. We need more time.
I don't think so.
I don't accept it.
Representative Bondman. No. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Chairman Hart.
Aye.
Representative Cross.
Aye.
Representative Bondon.
Aye.
Representative Klein.
No.
Representative Hanson.
Yes.
Representative Hicks.
Aye.
Representative LaFever.
No.
Representative Lance.
Aye.
Representative Munson.
Aye.
Representative Pace. Representative Rowden. Representative Sayer. Representative Hanson. Did you want to come back?
You want to front that vote?
He's present.
Present.
I get it.
I hear vote of 8 to 2, you do pass House Bill 1138 as amended. I now move we do pass House Bill 1318. There's an amendment, it's been distributed, it ends in .02H. Is Representative Brown here? Do you want to come up and discuss the amendment?
And we're on 1061,
1318.
which is.
The bingo bill?
Oh, yes, yes. The amendment on the bingo bill would, right now, there's one vendor that supplies bingo cards and pull tabs for all the nonprofit organizations that can have, for all the organizations that have bingo. So what my amendment does is, I'm sorry, I didn't even know that was coming up. I apologize. Yes. I have a piece of paper in front of me. Thank you. Anyway, right now, these organizations pay a tax on their bingo cards and their pull tabs. They're nonprofit, they pay a tax. This would make them not have to pay this tax on it. The supplier still has to pay a tax on their pull tabs, the people that supply the pull tabs and the bingo cards. But this would stop the organizations, they pay thousands of dollars every month in taxes on their bingo. So that's what the amendment would do. You know, because we're taxing a nonprofit is what we're doing with this. And again, I have an HJR that goes with this bill because it's actually in the Constitution, that goes with the original bill on how long you can be in an organization before you can help with the bingo and not be paid. And for as unclear as I just made that, any questions, I would be glad to clarify whatever.
Other questions for the representative? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment ending in .02H, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
The ayes have it. We're now on the underlying bill. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Chairman Hart.
Aye.
Representative Cross. Representative Bonded.
Aye.
Representative Colonna. Representative Hanson.
Aye.
Representative Hicks. Representative LaFever. Representative Lamb. Representative Munsell. Representative Pace. Representative Rowden. Representative Zaire.
By your vote of 91, you do pass House Bill 1318 as amended. We will now come out of executive session into regular session. The first bill we will hear is HJR 20, Representative Butler.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I'm Representative Michael Butler from St. Louis City. I'm here to present to you all HJR 20, which is about extending term limits. Now, anecdotally, the reason why we have this bill is most folks, you guys know the negative effects. People say that legislators are more inexperienced and so dumb, and that we need to extend or get rid of term limits. Now, in the effort of not offending the committee or myself, I'm not going to get too far into that. I'm just going to talk about what's in the bill, and I'll leave myself open to questions. What we have in my bill is extending term limits from 8 years to 12 years for both the House and the Senate. A very important piece to notice about this bill is that it does not apply to any legislator who's been elected before this term, before November 1st, 2016. So that means all of us would not be able to take advantage of the extension of term limits, making it much more palatable for public voters. People tend to think that if one of us tries to extend term limits, we're extending our own job. That is not my intent, and I'm sure it's not the intent of ours. Now, to think about that, if you run for the Senate or anything, you will not be able to take effect of the 12-year term limit. The parameters you were elected when you were first originally elected, the 8 and the 8 will be the parameters that we currently have. Anyone that runs in 2016 will then be under, if the voters were to approve this, will be under the new parameters of the 12 and 12. Now, I bet you're wondering, where did you get that number from? Where did you get the 12 number from? And anecdotally, I originally heard was that the average amount of time that legislators stayed in office prior to term limits was 12 years. But I did some research. University of Missouri did research, and that is true. That is true and not true. The average Democrat in the Senate, the number of years they stayed was 12 years. For those in the House, the average before term limits. So before term limits, the average tenure of a Republican in the House in 2001 was 5.3 years. For Democrats, it's 5.4 years, so about 5.5 years. And in the Senate, the average tenure for a Republican was 5 years, and the average tenure for a Democrat was 12.9. So it's important to note, and what got me to file this bill and then be passionate about this is that I believe that when we created term limits, there were quite a few people here that have been here a long time. And weren't as effective as they could be. We wanted more effective people like Representative Zare here. We wanted effective people here. But we chose the least amount of time we wanted people to be here rather than the most amount of time. Me personally, I think a 20-year term limit is good. I think anyone would say, we don't think anybody should stay more than 20 years. You say 16, 18 people, probably like, maybe not, but 20 years is too long. Well, we decided to say, I think the talking point was definitely the president, the governor stays 8 years. Well, Representative Zare only deserves 8 years. And that's incorrect. The average amount of time that a very, very powerful Democrat in the Senate stayed was about 12.9 years. That means they left around 12 years. So that's where the 12 years come from. There's another piece that goes into it, and my office has done a lot of research on this, is that there's only 4 states in the entire country that has a lifetime ban on term limits. There are some states there's a term limit, then you have a cooling off period, you can run again. And of those 4 states, Missouri is the only state in the entire country that has a lifetime ban and an 8-year term limit. All those other states have 12-year term limits. So of those 4 states that have lifetime bans, I apologize, there's 6 states: Michigan, Missouri, California, Oklahoma, Nevada, and Arkansas. All have lifetime bans on after your term limit is over. Now, there are 4 states that have 12-year term limits: Oklahoma, Louisiana, Nevada, and California. And I would like us to join that group of states that have a 12-year term limit and a lifetime ban. So this is not something that's unprecedented. There's 1 state that has a 16-year term limit, and that state is our neighbor, Arkansas. So I think we can look just south and be comparable to them. Some of you may, southern Missouri, may want to move down there if you like to after your lifetime ban is up. And it's important to note that there is only 1 state that has a term limit shorter than us, and has a lifetime ban. That's Michigan. 6-year term limit, lifetime ban, and y'all know how Michigan's doing right now. So with that being said, I'm open to any questions, and I hope that we can be very progressive, and we can kind of convince some folks that this is a good idea. And more importantly, I'm hoping that someone on the committee or a younger legislator would take heed of this. I thought as a freshman, because I felt like as a senior or junior, it kind of seems like you're extending your job time. And I think it's better that I'll be a junior in my next term, and I think it's better that freshman or sophomore kind of handle this bill and talk about from in a sense, not a non-self-serving point of view, that this is something good for the state. So maybe one of you can think about that.
Questions for the bill handler, Representative Hicks. Go ahead.
12 years. We've seen a few bills already coming through, committees and things talking about extending this, that, the other thing. I want to commend you on the one. I do like the fact that you do have it at 12 years. I think that is so it'd be 24 total though, correct? You do 12 here, 12 there. It's not split up to where you can do a certain number here and a certain number there. I like that idea. But I also like how you extended it to where it's not for any of us. And I think that you're commended for that, because it does show the fact that we do get the finger pointed at us a lot on certain issues. And I like what you did with that as far as making it to where it's, the new ones coming into office. It's not for us. We're not trying to extend our stay. And that I appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think, truth be told, that's the biggest difference between my bill and all other bills in the legislature right now, is that my bill does not apply to anyone in the legislature.
Any representatives there?
Yeah.
Representative Colonna.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Hey, gentlemen, I want to commend you. I want to commend you on taking the torch and carrying it and trying to do some good things. What I want to ask you, you understand that there is no political fortitude in this building to pass this bill? You understand that, right?
No, I don't. Actually, I've talked to quite a few people, but I think that there's that, and
I hope you prove me wrong.
Yeah,
because I think this is one of those situations where we'll sit here and we'll say, that's a good idea, it's a good idea, it's good. Just like we have for the 7 years I've been here, just like they did for the 7 years before I was here. And I think we'll get patted on the back and good job, Representative. I don't think it's going anywhere.
So I'll say, I think that that's why I came up with the extra caveat that it doesn't apply to us. I think that's where the political fortitude comes in. When I first sponsored this bill, my first session here, I went over and talked to the chairman in the Senate, and I talked to the elections chairman here in the House. And the chairman of the Senate is huge, very much against term limits. When I said, hey, what if we had something that doesn't apply to us? And he thought that was much more culpable. And if we got it over there, that it would, it would be beneficial. I've gotten a hearing on this bill every year that I've filed it, from 4 different chairmen. So I think there is some fortitude to at least put the conversation out there, and
Well, yeah, I'll
I think
support it.
it'll be a little different.
I'll help where I can.
Thank you,
I
Mike.
just, I'm losing faith the older I get here. But we're gonna bring it back. I hope so. But again, it's something we need to continue working on, and we're not gonna continue the conversation unless we do exactly what we're doing here. So again, I'm being sincere from the standpoint of thank you for continuing this fight, because I've lost steam on it.
And that's why we'll hope a freshman can pick it up, because I'm gonna lose steam on it for like 2 years.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. I totally understand.
Representative Zaire. Go ahead.
Well, you're my favorite sophomore.
Thank you. Yes, going around.
You're my
Love
second
spreading
favorite.
around.
Anyway, seriously though, seriously, I'm sorry.
Ooh,
You're one of my favorite sophomores.
wink, wink.
I think I'm gonna disagree with Representative Colonna. I think that there is the will here in this building, because we all know that everybody said, oh, term limits, it's such a steep learning curve and the lobbyists will have all the power and, well, as I've been here for 7 years now, it's really not the lobbyists that have the power. It is the bureaucrats.
Yes.
We ask a question and they just hunker down and know that we'll be gone in 8 years. And so that's who's leading this building. And the lobbyists spend so much time educating freshmen coming in that that's what they spend a lot of their time doing. Instead of what they should be doing is just presenting both sides of the issue, et cetera, et cetera. I think our challenge is outside of this building. How do we message and convince the general public that this is a good thing? It's going to have to be a real campaign, an informational campaign, because we know the problems here. We know the dysfunction here. But how do we message it to get the public to vote for it? That's the real challenge. And I don't know if that's, they just see us as, typical politicians and, we want to pat our own pockets, et cetera, et cetera. And that's really not the case, because most people up here are here for the right reason.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
I think the messaging point, that's the reason for the caveat. I think it's much easier for you or any of us to message to our constituents, this is a good idea, and trust, it doesn't affect me. It's gonna be the person that comes after me. That the fact that I can't take advantage of this, and I am in a sense, I am as passionate about it. The fact that the very thing that I don't like, an 8-year term limit, is the very thing that I'm not, and extending term limits is the very thing that I would want. That's what I want for future generations like you. Maybe say like you, maybe you'll run for office one day, and rather than for myself. And I think that's part of the message. The other thing is we got at least 1 or 2 major lobbyists to support this. I don't know if someone's gonna come up here and speak.
I don't see any hands going.
Yeah.
It's okay.
That's
not their issue, it's our issue, but.
I think the last piece of messaging when I think about this is former lobbyists and former legislators talking about these issues. Those legislators that were here for decades that didn't say, maybe that still have good relationships, have good community vibes that can then say, 12 years is the right amount. We did this wrong. It shouldn't be 12 years.
And a question, you can, it's like a total of 24 years, split it up any way you want, right?
Yeah, well, no,
2
it's
years?
not.
No?
That's what it's 12.
Max 12.
Max 12.
Okay,
Max 12.
all right, that's a good, thank you very much. For your
Welcome.
Thank you.
Representative Hanson.
Choir. I was just asking, and you could probably answer this, Representative Butler. When in 2002, we got it up to 8 and 8. Was it can somebody help me on that?
2002 was the first election. Yeah, it was the first election that took effect.
So we got from where we were then up to 16 years now, basically, is what we're under. And we want to take it now to 24 years.
Yes.
And there's pros and cons on this, like everybody knows. I think Representative Zare hit it on the head. Would be a really hard campaign to convince people. I have a hard time when we're sitting around discussing how long we're down here. And you also are gonna have to combat US senators spending their whole life in Washington DC. And that's disgusting, personally. But, that's another day, another fight. But that issue right there alone is gonna say, yeah, you wanna have 24 years down here now doing this, like the US senator, they get elected over and over in Washington. I mean, people leaving there 80 years old, been there 40 years, only thing they've known their whole life. So that is gonna be a tough sell.
I agree, I think.
And just one more comment, to go from 16 to 24, is there any psychological testing involved there? Just kidding.
I would say in response, I think the only unfortunate, and without trying to offend the folks behind me, the only thing that polls worse than politicians are lobbyists. So maybe if we got some lobbyists.
Go on the record, that was not my comment.
We got some lobbyists to say that, they got too much power, then this would be a little better.
Other questions, Representative Cross?
Just make a few brief comments. Representative Butler, I think your bill right here, personally, I appreciate what you're trying to accomplish. There's a few things, and I think each and every one of us, well, I don't care which side of the aisle you're on, so many people in their own home districts are really not familiar with the political process, and the only thing they really got to go by is looking at you and the image that you that they perceive in you and what you have to say. So sometimes they don't have anything else to judge it by. Now, if they respect you and you have credibility, then they're going to be more open to listen to what you say versus look at you and go, oh, are you one of those career politicians? Because they really don't know. They don't have any idea. And I think it's up to each and every one of us to be able to educate our own districts as far as the knowledge within the institution, the effectiveness, and naturally our own life's experiences have an impact on the way we handle our job. I can say this to you, having life's experience, having a career before I got elected, it does leave an impression on your constituents at home and the way you present this program. Even, they know this. I mean, I've made this comment. I'm sure most everybody knows I'm a cancer survivor. That does impact some decisions I make. I'll tell you what, whether you know it or not, being a grandpa now, that impacts me because of future generations. So there's a number of elements, is what I'm saying, that impact other people when they listen to you speak, if you have credibility. Thank you.
Other questions for the bill handler? Seeing none. Can I get a show of hands, anybody who's here to testify in favor? Anyone testify in opposition? Anyone for informational purposes? Okay, so there's only one witness. Because of the amount of bills that we have to do today, I'm going to be limiting testimony to 2 minutes. This one shouldn't be too bad. It's only got one person, so come on up.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Here we go.
Good afternoon. My name is Richard Sheets. I represent the Missouri Municipal League, and a couple of years ago, my membership at our annual meeting adopted a policy in support of extending term limits. My member officials, our governmental officials at the local level, they understand that, and then they appreciate the time it takes, and also the relationships that have to be developed, and they wholeheartedly support Representative's bill. We'd like to go on record with that support.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Okay, second witness in favor. No. Anyone to testify in opposition? Anyone for information purposes? Seeing none, let's close the hearing on House Joint Resolution 20. We will now move to House Bill 1080, Representative Hicks.
Got a lot to read. Go ahead. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Just for the record, State Representative Ron Hicks, District 107, St. Charles County. What I'm going to bring forth today is going to have some controversy to it, but I think it's going to have a lot more substance than it will controversy. America is changing, and it's changing fast. We're going broke. We can't afford to do things within our states because of budgets. The one thing we can't afford to do as an individual is protect ourselves. And that's what this bill is about. House Bill 1080 would require, or not require, but would allow someone like myself with a CCW to be able to carry my firearm on public transportation. It's no secret anymore now that we've seen the news articles and everything that has happened recently on a recent train where 3 individuals, which really I only saw 2 doing the assaulting, but 3 individuals were involved in an assault on a gentleman on the train. It was sad to see that there were other members on that train, other people that did not help. But it was also sad to see that this young man, this individual, could not help himself. I don't know about you, but if I'm in that same situation, I have children at home, and I'd like to be able to return home to my family. That situation could have went south really fast if one of those individuals had a firearm or something. We could see the violence that happened already. I don't think they had any respect for life or an individual's rights for that matter. I myself have been on the Metrolink twice, only 2 times. One time I was on the train, I met a very nice individual who was actually sitting in this audience today. But on my way home on that train, I had taken it to a ball game. But on my way home on that train, I witnessed in my own eyes a fight happen. Of course, it had nothing to do with me nor my wife. So we sat back. The fight was between 2 individuals. It was not one being pummeled by 3, so I left it alone, none of my business, and I stayed out of it. I wasn't usually raised that way, but I was raised to where if it's 1-on-1, you let it go. If it's 2-on-1, you try to stop it. Like a perfect example of that individual that was beaten on the train. I myself was the kind of guy that would have gotten up and maybe taken a few of those licks myself just so he didn't have to. But the bottom line is I want to be able to protect my family. The first time I rode the train, I had a great experience on the way there, but on the way home, did I fear for my wife and I a little bit? Yes, because I know how a fight can turn from 2 individuals fighting to the whole train fighting. And I wanted no part of it. The second time I rode the train, my wife and I again sitting, going down to a blues game. So blues. An individual sitting in front of me, or not sitting in front of me, but standing in front of me, and I don't know if he carried a CCW or not. But the bottom line was, is when he reached up to hold on, his shirt lifted, and I could see his firearm sitting in his back, the small of his back, not in a holster. Didn't look like a very well taken care of firearm. No judgment on the individual, but I'm not sure if that individual carried a CCW or not. I did not feel comfortable at that time knowing that I'm not allowed to protect myself on this train. But that individual right there, whether he was legally carrying his firearm or not, which we know he wasn't if he was on the train, but I don't know if he was legally carrying that or not. I didn't know his intentions. I didn't know what could have happened on that train. But immediately I started thinking to myself, how do I protect myself and my wife? At that particular moment, if that gentleman had turned around, the only way I know I've been able to protect myself is the way I've been trained to do so. But what about someone else? I'm not saying that a firearm would have stopped those 3 individuals from beating on that one individual, but what if that one individual was able to protect himself? Obviously, we saw he wasn't able to. That gentleman may have never been in a fight in his life. The bottom line is he may have had a source to protect himself if he was allowed to do so. I know there's going to be opposition on this. I know some of the members of the committee have already talked to me. People have stopped me in the hallways. But I just have one question. Then what do we do? I was told that we have security guards and police officers on the trains. I haven't seen one. Are they undercover? Are they hiding? Where were they with those 3 individuals jumped that one individual? I don't know if this is the solution or the answer, but you know what? In my mind, and to protect my family and myself and be able to go home in the evening, it is my solution. I've used firearms to protect the country and myself before. I'll do it again. With that, I'd like to go ahead and just open up for questions because I don't want to take too much of the time. I already know that I'm going to have opposition on this, but I also think I'm going to have a lot of people supporting it. I almost bet you the gentleman that was beat would probably support it, but I was unable to get a hold of him. I have talked with other people that ride the Metrolink on a daily basis for work. And I know some of them say they don't care about that. They carry their firearm anyway. Because the bottom line is, at least they're still alive for their family members, but they also feel safer in doing so. If anyone is in here has ridden the Metrolink, I think you understand what I'm talking about.
Questions from the bill hammer? See, Representative Hanson.
Yeah, this is just to make it legally okay for your gun on the Metrolink if you haven't CC'd it.
Just gonna, yes, it does. It provided that you legally can carry a firearm in the state of Missouri already.
Public bus, Metrolink, taxi cab.
Correct, yes. And, you know, speaking of the taxi cab side of that, I mean, we're hearing a lot of things in the news now about that. Uber blowing up, everyone's using it, now we're seeing crime with it. My wife said just last night she was reading an article about a young lady that was assaulted after her friends were dropped off, and my wife said, I'm sad to see that that lady can protect herself. My wife can protect herself.
Further questions for the bill handler, Representative Colonna.
Sure, Mark.
Go ahead.
First off, I'm having a bad day.
Sorry to
Secondly,
hear that, Representative.
I gotta figure out a tactful way to ask this question. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Majority party folks talk about this local control this local control that. I got cops that are being shot when they walk out of the courthouse downtown. I do not care if you strap a bazooka to your belt in St. Charles County or in Franklin County. But daggone it, when the urban areas want to exercise their local control and, in their opinion, protect people from themselves, why can't we do that?
That was my question. Why can't I protect myself?
But you watch the news, right?
Not really, no, I'm not a big news fan.
So then, maybe you didn't see it on Facebook. Maybe you didn't see it on TV. Maybe you didn't read about it in the paper. Maybe it didn't come up in conversation in the back of the House chamber. But you know, we had 3 youths assault a fella on Metrolink. The youths were 15, 20, and I don't know the other age. And the big complaint was, this is all caught on camera, and the big complaint was, oh, nobody did anything. I asked myself, and I'll ask you gentlemen, if somebody was sitting on that Metrolink train, a Metrolink train in the middle of my district that is smaller than this capital area, somebody's packing, how do you think that would have ended? Because there was a race issue there. The black kid was smacking on the white guy, saying, what do you think about Michael Brown? And the white guy said, you know, I haven't given much thought. All on camera. That's a volatile situation. And I think to myself, thank God nobody had a gun on that train. Because I will speculate if someone did have a gun on that train, instead of those 3 youths running out the door as soon as it opened, one of those youths would have been dead. Or perhaps the gentleman that was getting assaulted would have been dead. And I'd rather err on the side of caution in my urban metro area than continue to carry the flag to a point of absurdity for gun rights. And that's the way I view your bill.
Good.
So correct me where I'm wrong. Where am I wrong on this?
Where you're wrong is how come that individual couldn't protect himself? What if, well, okay, here we go. The 3 individuals, let's just say that they were the ones with the firearm. It could have ended either way on this one. The bottom line is I'd like for any individual being able to ride that to be able to protect themselves. There are laws in place already on the books for concealed carry personnel. If you have a concealed carry weapon and you're carrying that firearm, there are laws of when you can and cannot use the excessive force. Okay, in a situation like that, you are allowed to protect others.
Gentlemen, I'd like to take this to its absolute complete absurdity so that maybe by the time I leave here, whether it's next year or before, this issue is done. So my gut tells me when I have the amendment to remove all restrictions on where you can carry firearms, including age restrictions, that you're going to friendly accept that amendment in this committee.
I wouldn't.
Well, why not?
Because
I want folks to be able to defend themselves everywhere.
I think first off, 18 years old, I would agree with.
Why 18? Why not 16?
Because at 18, you're an adult, you fend for yourself. You no longer have mom, dad, or anybody else to protect you.
I would venture to ask the peanut gallery out there, how many parents have kids over the age of 18 that live with them because they can't take care of themselves?
These days and age, there's quite a few of them, actually.
Yeah, yeah. But, you know, hey, I know some pretty mature 16-year-olds.
Well, I do.
You know, and let's be real, we need to get guns in school too. We don't know why there just needs to be a resource officer. I don't know why there's a restriction on that. All of our teachers should be able to carry, and so should those mature, responsible 16-year-olds. And gentlemen, I look forward to your help in making sure that amendment gets on.
I wouldn't mind being able to see them carry them either.
I gotta go back to my constituents
Teachers, that is.
again and say that upstate Missouri has no respect or courtesy for what we think and believe in the urban areas. And I try to use the conservative argument of local control to help explain that. But then it's always taken away from me because local control, from at least a conservative perspective in this body, is different depending upon what the issue is.
And Representative, you know I respect you. But the bottom line here is I've heard that exact argument my whole life. And it still does not answer the fact of why I cannot protect myself nor my family. Let's take where you wanted to take some of these things into the worst case scenario. 3 individuals beat this young man on the bus. One pulls a gun out, shoots him in the head, and he's gone.
It's bad.
Yeah.
That's
Who's to say they wouldn't have turned around and started shooting at everyone else? And if they had started to do so, or even if they had shot that young man, I already have my hand on my weapon and I'm ready to protect my wife and myself so that I can go home to my children.
we're gonna agree to disagree, but I really.
I respect you.
I really would like to put this issue to rest. I hate the fact that I have to go back every year and explain why we, once again, erode some of our ability in the metro area to combat crime.
Well, our districts are different.
They are.
My
And that's why
district every
I
year
will
comes
give,
to me wanting to know why they can't protect themselves.
and if you want to restrict that to your district, that's great. Maybe I should have an amendment to exempt out the urban areas
My
because I'll bet you.
constituents and myself don't just travel in our district, we travel within the whole state.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see how many urban folks we have in this committee. Not 2.5. Those in the city center. Springfield's like a spoke, you know, they don't give them enough of the actual city of Springfield to make it urban. They get a little bit that they go out earlier. Mr. Chairman, I don't want to belay this any further. I think I've made my point, and, you know, gentlemen, we will continue to work together on other issues because you're one of the good ones. You have a heart, you care, you put political affiliation aside when it's appropriate, and I do appreciate that, but this is an issue we will not agree on.
We knew that before we came in here, sir. Thank you. No love lost, Colin.
I can't tell if I've just been disrespected. Any other questions, Bill? Representative Bondon.
Just to briefly inquire.
Go ahead.
And I'll leave it being, Mr. Chairman, that my great representative here who always likes to point out when one side takes the other side's argument, I'll leave that to itself today. The interesting thing that struck me, and maybe you could reiterate this, you told of a story of a time when you saw someone carrying a gun on public transportation. Could you reiterate or just flesh that out for me very briefly?
If I'm carrying a firearm, a lot of us carry it in our waistband. And if we go to reach up to do something, what's exposed? That's exactly what happened on the train, except it was in his back.
And so, without rehashing too much the entire...
I didn't mind if he was carrying the gun, because I don't know if he was carrying it legally or not. The bottom line was, in the back of my mind, how do I protect myself if he has ill intent to use that firearm?
The interesting quandary about laws are the only people that obey them are the lawful. The lawless are not obeying the law. They're not obeying the law now. They won't obey the law whether we change it. And so those who wish to do harm and don't follow the law will do that as their wont. And as much as I truly do respect my good friend from St. Louis, I think this is an issue of restricting those who want to follow the law, restricting their rights to protect themselves. And I don't suspect that any of us will ever probably come to agreement on that, but to me, this is a matter of the lawful versus the lawless. Do you see it that way?
Pretty much, yes. A lot of the way, yes.
Further questions for Bill Hammer? Seeing none, can I show of hands, all those who are planning to testify in favor? All those planning to testify in opposition? All those planning to testify for informational purposes? Okay, so it's about 10 people. Again, we're going to limit testimony to 2 minutes apiece. Go ahead, those in favor?
Mr. Chairman, committee, for the record, Kerry Messer on behalf of Missourians for Personal Safety. This is the consortium of Second Amendment organizations in the state of Missouri that are engaged in the legislative process. It's interesting that this bill comes up on the heels of a term limit discussion because none of you here know anything about the debates in this legislature, not only in 2003 when House Bill 349 was passed to give us a concealed carry law in the state, but the 13-year debate that raged in this legislature prior to 2003. When we finally did pass a CCW law in the state of Missouri, it was one of the most restrictive in the nation. It had all the best of virtually every other state because we were one of the last states to actually adopt a CCW law. And the only way we were able to get it passed after 13 years debate was to sew all kinds of restrictions into the statutes. And since that time, over the last dozen years, what has occurred is the folks promoting the CCW movement were absolutely correct. Even some of the major media have written editorials entitled how that they were incorrect, that there is not blood flowing in the streets, there is not a bunch of trouble, and that in reality, the folks who carry CCWs are folks who have been properly trained, they have been certified, they've been okayed by the local sheriff's department, and these are good law-abiding people who every day in this country thwart crimes and save people's lives, even though you never read about them in the media. Right now, today, we have mass transit, public transportation systems. We want people to use them, yet we have people who avoid them. We have people who are strapped and they have no other choice but to use them. If they're law-abiding, they become targets of those that are not law-abiding, who carry a firearm or who otherwise want to beat them up or abuse them. One person, one of us, in a train car can save a lot of trouble. Thank you very much.
Questions for the witness? Representative Colon?
Briefly, Clark.
Yes.
In my urban area, would it occur that if somebody gets on a train thinking, good God, I don't know who's packing here because anybody can, they're going to turn around and get off the train?
Currently, people don't get on the train because they're afraid that there'll be someone, they're afraid of the bad actor. I'm rephrase your question, make sure I understand what you're saying.
I would like to ask you to spend some time in my neighborhoods.
Okay.
And talk to my constituents
who
would gravely disagree.
I understand. It's a difference in worldview. I understand that.
It's a difference in practicality.
But I've also,
gentlemen, you're talking theory, and that's a beautiful thing. And
well,
I
I've also
respect
seen
that.
a lot of the YouTube videos also, and thanks to citizens standing up, and one person with a firearm has the extra impetus to stand up, never pull the gun, but at least stand up and defend someone who's being beat up, and to keep that person from being forced off of the transport. I know that, but they have the impetus to do so because they know they've got that backup. You got 3 people beating up on one person. It's pretty intimidating for one person to try to stand up for that individual. The big thing is to keep that individual, particularly if it's a lady, from being forced off of that transport with those 3 individuals when they don't want to get off at that stop. Someone with the firearm is going to make sure that the bad actors get off at one stop, the innocent people will ride to another stop before they get off, and they will separate those 2 before there's blood in the streets. That's what's so valuable about this piece of legislation. Thank you.
Further questions for the witness?
Thank you, Mr.
None,
Chairman.
thank you for testifying. Next witness in favor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
A reminder to the witnesses, if you could, in any way, endeavor to not be duplicative in your testimony.
Well, we talked earlier. Whitney O'Dino, National Rifle Association. Wanted to bring up some key facts here, why this is important and why we should applaud Representative Hicks and Senator Onder for sponsoring legislation like this. And I'll give you a history on Metro, just so we understand what we're dealing with here and why you're not safe at this time. In 2010, the voters approved a ballot measure in St. Louis County and the city, which was 0.75%, I believe, for a sales tax to increase funding for Metro. Okay. This bill only affects buses and trains in the state of Missouri, but since most of the opposition comes from the city, I understand that. That 0.75 generated something like $70 million, of which today, after this event that we have witnessed on YouTube, the director, I believe the director of security for Metro says, and I quote respectfully, that this is going to be an issue for them to put a security guard on every MetroLink car. Quote, there will likely never be a security guard on every MetroLink car budget-wise. Doing so would be difficult to do, Metro's Director of Public Safety, Richard Zott, told KMOX Mark Reardon. But he said security reviews take place after any incident, and such a review is being conducted since the video recorded the beating. I think if we'd had Representative Hicks's bill and statute, there might not have been a beating. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Questions from the witness? Representative Favor? Go ahead.
Under this, as I understand it, it would just be a concealed carry. And so I'm curious how the Rifle Association would be in favor of it if you can't conceal a rifle. So is it, I mean, if we're being honest, this is not about general gun ownership. This is not about responsible gun ownership. This is about people being able to pack a pistol in a loaded bus to be able to shoot at anybody they want that they deem as a threat.
No, under actually state law, Castle Doctrine prohibits that. You must first retreat before using that in a situation of that degree.
And if you've been beaten and you can't retreat.
Well, under 563, that you actually have that engagement there. But anyway, going back to the rifle part, rifle, pistol, any use of self-defense we support. Thanks.
Further questions for the witness? Representative Colonna.
Thank you, Conspire. When am I supposed to buy this false argument that people check out the bus and think, oh, who's packing? Maybe I shouldn't be a bad boy. Would you support an amendment that allowed open carrying on buses, mass transit, and I'd like to put schools in there too, but let's focus on this bill. If you really want to discourage people from being bad boys and girls and shooting folks, they need to see when they walk into that bus or that MetroLink, the Representative Hicks has his firearm right then and there in plain view. You would agree that's more of a deterrent, wouldn't you?
I think actually we understand under a right to carry that not knowing is the best deterrent. Now, if you want to carry openly, go ahead.
I want to know if you will support that amendment.
Well, no,
will the NRA support that amendment? Well, to open carry so everybody can see it, so that we know somebody's there to protect my God-given rights of not being beat up on the bus or the MetroLink.
Well, this
would you support that amendment?
Well, this actually would have already taken care of it. Last year, this already took care of it. You would already be allowed to carry openly. If you have a bus
or on MetroLink?
Well, yeah, because you already have a right to carry permit.
So
if you're a law-abiding citizen who has a right to carry permit, this will allow you to openly carry.
So right now, I can openly carry a gun on a MetroLink bus or train if I am properly licensed?
No. In the state of Missouri, you can openly carry a firearm for self-defense if you have a right to carry permit. Okay?
Wouldn't you agree, though, that if you want to control crime on the MetroLink, seeing somebody with a gun, knowing that they can use that to stop you from committing your bad crime, is more of a deterrent than scratching your head and wondering who has a gun on this that might deter me from doing a crime?
Well, Representative, one, this says anyone who has a permit can carry, okay? Therefore, alluding to last year's legislation that allows you to carry openly if you have a permit under Section 21 of state statute. So therefore, we already took care of your problem.
So you're saying this bill does allow?
Well, sure it will. No, this bill will not allow. Previous law will allow. This will enable you to carry a gun on a MetroLink.
So let me rephrase the non-responsive answer. Currently, you cannot openly carry on a MetroLink bus or a MetroLink train.
You cannot carry, period.
Which would include, you can't openly carry in plain view your firearm, right? You can't do that right now.
Correct.
This bill would not allow you to openly carry a firearm on Metrolink or bus, right?
Let me clear this for you, okay?
It's a yes or no question, I'm confused.
Well, you are confused, so I'm gonna straighten it for you. Right now, I carry a concealed carry permit, okay?
Yeah.
I can openly carry if I'd like to right now, due to a law that we passed last year.
Okay.
So if this law was to go into effect, yes, your amendment would already be in effect.
Oh.
But the
let me
reason
rephrase.
we do not carry our guns out in the open like that is because what he had already said. We do not carry them out in the open like that for the one reason I do not, you're a target. If I am a burglar, a criminal, or whatever, and I come onto that train and I see you have a gun, you are my first target. You're in my way.
I do not want to misstate what you said, so I want to make sure I understand.
Go ahead.
This bill would allow, as long as we're properly permitted, you or I to step onto a Metro with our sidearm strapped to us where everybody could see, right?
Previous bill allows that, not this particular bill. A previous bill we passed through the Senate already allows anyone with a CCW permit to carry in the open if they wish to choose to do so. So if this went into law and I chose to go on the Metrolink with my concealed carry, I could have it exposed if I would like to.
And that would also include the folks that come from another state like they did before, to downtown St. Louis, and march around with their guns just because they could. They could step onto a Metro with their
If they legally can carry the firearm in our state.
Okay. I'll make sure that, if I happen to talk to the folks or something afterwards,
Just remember, there are
My
still
facts
laws
right.
that require you legally to carry a firearm anyway. We're not just saying anyone can.
Gentlemen, I'd like to move forward.
Are we done yet?
I'd like to move forward with another.
7 years, we've had a good time.
Any other discussion? I mean, okay, thank you. Okay. Anybody else for this? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Representative Lona.
Is there anybody else here to testify? Looks like a familiar face.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jimmy Kinney. I'm here for Missouri Alliance for Freedom. Just went on record supporting Bill.
Is there any questions for this gentleman? Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Anybody else who'd like to testify in favor of this bill? Okay, now we're gonna go to the opposition. Do we have any opposition? I thought maybe we might have had a hand or two who'd like to testify against this bill. Okay, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bob Jackson, representing City Utilities of Springfield, Missouri. We are the utility, the only municipal utility in the United States that runs a transit system. We provide Representative Har his gas, water, and electricity, and he does pay his bill. But we do run the transit system in Springfield. We have several bus routes, regular bus routes and express routes. Our policy through our city utilities board that we do not allow any weapons in our power plants, in our gas plants, in our water treatment plants, in our major office building downtown, and on our buses there in Springfield. We feel this is a local control issue. Our board knows our community, and I would agree with Representative Colonna. We are getting tired of the state telling the local communities that they seem to know best of what's best. Our board feels like that the present policy that we do not allow this on our buses is the best way to go. Be glad to take any questions.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Further testimony in opposition?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Kathy Harness. I am a lobbyist here on behalf of and our Board of Commissioners have a policy, and we have always had a policy in place that does not allow weapons on public transportation in the St. Louis area. 20% of our riders are going to school. About 75% of our riders are going to work. And most of those, the majority of those riders going to work and school cannot carry weapons at their final destination of their school or employment. Also, a lot of our riders are going to the sports stadiums downtown or downtown events, and you cannot carry weapons in those facilities either. So I guess I would wonder what you would do with your weapons when you get to those locations. The other thing is that we do employ Metro contracts with the local jurisdictions to provide our policing. We have, the city of St. Louis has 8 officers. St. Louis County has 22. Metro employs 27 officers and also then contracts with another 100 security officers. And we have officers, we do not have officers on every bus and every train. Officers board the trains and do walkthroughs. We do have security cameras on every bus and every train, and there is a 24/7 monitoring system that goes on. They, Bi-State meet weekly, and they have what they can do crime analysis, and that's how they determine where they put their officers in their location.
Thank you very much. Questions for the witness, Representative Colonna?
Good, Mark.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna phrase this like a question. Would you be willing to go back to your board and tell them, we're gonna fix that? I'm gonna have the amendment to allow folks to bring their guns into schools and the sports galleries and everything else.
And all the offices, where they go to work, hospitals,
Maybe
nursing
you
homes.
can work with me on that amendment, because I wanna make sure I cover it all. 'Cause
Well-
we need to put this issue to rest. This picking away at local authorities' abilities to control their own crime problems and address those issues unique to them needs to stop. And we need to move this gun thing to where it ends.
We're probably not going to promote more guns because we think the best policy is better policing.
But if everybody had guns on the street, that would be better policing. Ask the cops who shot at my street.
I agree with you totally, and I know we think that, you know, Bi-State should get to determine their own policies.
Representative Hanson?
Wire.
Go ahead.
Do you have any statistics on the number of crimes committed in the last 5 years on Federal Lane?
You know, I don't have them here with
With
me.
gun, without gun, physical assault?
I can get those because I'm sure we do.
And when they get to the end of the train, and you're saying people without a gun on the train legally, like Representative Hicks would have, if he was allowed to carry it on there, where would, you know, what do you do with that gun when you get to the end of the line? Well, he's got a permit to carry it. Where do the criminals drop their guns off at the end of the line?
I mean, that's, you know,
Where do they put them in a box when they get off down by Bush Stadium, or?
I don't know, I haven't seen that. If they do, I haven't seen that. Sometimes they drop them in a trash can.
One with the lower stuff in his back here, like he was demonstrating, where's he dropped his off?
I don't know, but I would hope that Representative Hicks reported the incidents that he had, because that's how they do, that's how they can do a better job of policing.
No one reported to on the train.
Further questions for the witness? Seeing none. Further witnesses in opposition?
Mr. Chairman, again, Richard Sheets, Missouri Municipal League, and we second on the record in opposition of 1080. Our position and concern is this is a local responsibility. These are public facilities owned by a municipality, and it's up to locally elected officials to determine the community's desire and interest in these issues, and should be left to locally elected officials.
Questions from the witness? Representative Colonna?
Thank you, too, Clark.
Ed?
Are you prepared to go back and tell them they're wrong?
No, I'm not prepared to do that.
What do you tell them?
Well, I tell them, our position is it's their decision. That's our position. It's their decision to determine the policies for those public facilities, the buses.
I don't understand. They should be coming to you saying, the more guns we have on the train, on the bus, the less crime we're gonna have. That's not what they're doing?
No, they're not.
I'm at a loss. Thank you.
Any other questions for this gentleman? Okay, thank you, sir. Next. Another familiar face.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Fred Drawing today, representing the Kansas City Area Transportation Authority. We are the bus system in Kansas City. We would like to go on record in opposition to House Bill 1080. As was mentioned before, we think this is a local control issue. We are stewards of the tax dollars of the citizens of Kansas City, and right now we don't see any clamoring for the ability to be able to carry a concealed weapon on our bus system. Many of the examples that you've heard today dealt with the city of St. Louis. We haven't really heard about any incidents in Kansas City, and we just like to go on record in opposition.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Gordon?
Quickly, then.
Sorry, I got other.
That's all right.
He wanted out.
So there's,
You started taking notes, I got nervous.
so there haven't been any gun incidents or crime committed on Kansas City buses in the last 5 years?
There has been some assaults on bus drivers, and Representative Pace had that bill for several years to increase the penalties for that. We've had a couple of shooting incidents in Kansas City, but they've involved people shooting at the buses. They weren't actually on the buses. But to my knowledge, we've not had any armed criminal actions on our bus system within the last 5 years, if that was your question. But we've had bus driver assaults, but it didn't involve a firearm. It was just people, punching the bus driver.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Mike Wincher, I represent the Missouri Public Transit Association. You've heard from some of our members who are larger transit operators, but we do represent transit operators of all sizes and all locations around the state. They do have similar policies to what you've heard, not allowing for concealed weapons to be brought on the buses or trains. We believe that decision should be left up with the local jurisdiction to determine if that policy should stay intact. The one thing I would note, different in a couple of conversations I've had, some of our transit operators are under contract to provide services to different entities, and a part of those contracts is that there not be any weapons allowed on those facilities. So this type of legislation is a contract. It's in the contract where we provide services that passengers cannot carry weapons onto the buses. So that theoretically would be in conflict, I think, with what's in House Bill 1080. So we are in opposition to 1080.
Okay, any question, Mr. Winter? I believe we got Representative Plona here. Briefly, quiet, please. Thank you.
You highlighted something that maybe I forgot about. A lot of our public transit systems receive federal funding. Is this an issue on receiving funding?
Representative, I have to check on that. Potentially it could be, but I've not really thought about that.
Yeah, I think all philosophical issues put aside, that's something I think that we would like to know. So if you or perhaps somebody from Metro could follow up on it, let us know. I think that'd be real helpful.
I'll make a note of that and I'll get back to the committee and you.
Okay. There's one other question here from Mr. Winter. Representative Hanson, did you first inquire, please?
Yeah, could you restate that last comment you just made about the policy of no guns on contract?
With the contract?
The contract, do you have a contract with the criminals?
No, obviously we do not. Those are contracts that we have with entities to provide transit.
So it's just a contract with the CW carrier that he can't take his on even though he's trained to be able to carry a concealed permit. He's not allowed to do that, right? He's not allowed to carry his on your transportation system, correct?
Our operators?
No, this representative. He can't get on there with it, correct? Now, how do you check him and how do you check the other people that are getting on there with a gun illegally?
Well, I would hope that if someone is on one of the buses or trains illegally with a weapon, as it seems like was the case with Representative Hicks, that Representative Hicks would contact one of the operators or someone would report that to where we can then contact law enforcement. Those people would be escorted off the bus or the train.
I see. They get on there and raise their hand. Hey, bus driver, I got a gun illegally. Would you call the police?
Well, I think as Representative Hicks demonstrated, he held up his arm and you could see the concealed weapon that the gentleman was carrying on the bus or the train.
Further questions for the witness? Seeing none. Further testimony?
Yes.
Seeing none. Anyone for informational purposes? Seeing none. That we close the hearing.
May I ask Representative Hicks a question, please? Here's a question I've got, because I can ask this to a number, but I think you might be able to answer this currently. I'd like to know of all the crime that's happened on this public transportation, whether you can give me a percentage or whether you can give me just one incident. What is the percentage of the incidents that has caused a crime with a firearm by somebody who has a CCW?
I don't know of any of them, to tell you the truth. And I'm going to be honest with your question here. And the reason I did not come with any of that, or some of the other questions where people were talking about crimes and, you know, all the percentages of this and that, I filed this bill before this ever happened. I filed this bill before this incident happened on the train. That was just poor timing on that individual's part that decided to beat this guy on the train. This bill was filed before that. So this is all new, but this is exactly the point of my bill. It couldn't have happened. I'm sorry to say this, but it couldn't have happened at a better time.
But you don't have any record of any crime was by somebody who has a CCW, right?
Sir, in the state, try to look that percentage up. The company that I used to work for has supplied over 20,000 CCW license, and not one of them has ever been arrested for illegal use of their firearm.
Thank you.
For the question, or for the, I guess for that.
And just in closing, we heard a lot of testimony, and of course, we heard more against my bill. And every single one of them, as I just saw a reporter tweet out, was all from the Transportation Department people. Not a one of them testified in favor. But I'm here to tell you, wait till you start getting sued. Because that's what's coming next. You just testified that you will not allow a citizen of the state of Missouri to protect themselves on your transportation. I hope they stop using it. I'll close. Thank you.
Let's close the hearing on House Bill 1080. We will now move to House Bill 883. Is Representative Law here?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Representative Gall, 39th District, Ray Carroll, Sheridan counties. My bill would stop the practice of shooting across the property line of the adjacent property. If the adjacent adjoining is not owned by you, unless you have specific authority from that landowner to do that. And if you did that, it would be a Class C misdemeanor. And with that, I would take any questions.
Do you have any questions for the bill handler? Hearing none.
I do.
Representative Hammond.
Being the fact that I like shooting a rifle or deer hunting or whatever it might be, give me a good example of this.
Sure.
I kill my neighbor and I don't know.
Okay, so let's say we have a property, a section, and then you own the property north of that section and the property west of that section. If you were hunting on the west property and you're shooting onto the north property, you'd technically be shooting across the neighbor's property. So I'm saying that you can do that, but you're gonna have to go to your neighbor and say, hey, I may have to shoot across your property. Is it okay if I do that? You're not gonna be out there, with your grandkids or anything like that.
Well, let me give you my example here. I better understand this. Off my deck over my lake,
right?
It's about 500 yards to the top of the hill on the other side of my lake.
Right.
And then there's my neighbor's property line.
Right.
I can't shoot.
As long as the projectile.
As long as that bullet doesn't cross his fence.
Right.
I'm all right.
Correct.
Well, when it crosses his fence, everybody in northeast Missouri is gonna have to go talk to their neighbors, right?
I think that's a good thing. I mean, if you're gonna shoot a firearm in the direction of your neighbor's property.
I know there's no house over there or anybody over there. There's nothing over there but where I shoot. I still gotta go.
The impetus bill is for folks who are hunting and recreational shooting. If you know that you're shooting from property A, which is yours, over property B, which is your neighbor's, onto property C, which is yours, that is illegal. Unless you go and talk to your neighbor and they say.
Right now, that's illegal?
Right now, that's legal. And right now, it's a huge safety factor. And right now, the people who own property A and property C who spend millions of dollars to, create wildlife in those areas. It's a dangerous situation, so.
Never mind.
Representative Pace?
I was just wondering, how do you unknowingly shoot a weapon? I
How
mean,
do you unknowingly?
there may be an accident.
I don't think you can unknowingly. I think it's saying you're knowingly shooting across your neighbor's property. I mean, I don't know if you've been out in the woods before, but you can get turned around pretty easy. So a lot of times you may shoot in a direction that you think you're shooting one direction, technically you're shooting another.
Representative Colonna?
Quick one.
Go ahead.
Just to follow up on the representative's question. Correct me if I'm wrong. Knowingly refers to, in essence, the mental intent. So it's not a, hey, I thought my property line was there. Oops, it's really not, it's somewhere else. Knowingly is, you know exactly where that property line is.
Right.
And you don't care.
Right.
You just shoot anyway.
Right.
That's what you're trying to,
Correct.
to stop. Okay.
Representative Bondon?
To inquire,
Go ahead.
you have a very specific set of mandates here as to what you would have to have, and it's actually a signed agreement.
Right.
I'm wondering, I understand what you're doing, and I like the bill itself. I just wonder if by requiring this written agreement that has these three specific parts, if we're not going to accidentally catch some people who are not breaking the
No,
law
I
in any
understand.
way.
Yeah, that's, it's not the purpose of the bill to make this so hard and that people aren't gonna go do it. So I'd be willing to work.
And I don't even know, Representative, how you say it differently. I'm just envisioning the neighbor who's out of town or who goes to Florida 6 months out of the year, and they're gone and you are shooting across their property. You don't have the permit. They don't care, but you don't have the permit. And the police come by and swoop you up and say, hey, I got you now. You shot across somebody's line without that. And that's absolutely not what you're intending. I'm just afraid with that very specific, I could even say a written or a verbal agreement, something just logistically and word-wise, I wonder if that might be something we look at. The bill as a whole is absolutely something we need to get done here.
Further questions, Representative Hanson?
Yeah, I've got a choir. Have you handled legal cases dealing with this issue?
I have not. Wish I
Do you know
could.
any other attorneys that have?
Maybe.
You said you wished you had.
Yeah.
Why?
I always wanted to get legal business. I am an attorney. I do have a job.
It looks to me like this is creating a lot of legal business.
I don't.
To me.
But it could. I mean, it could create.
Sure, everybody in northeast Missouri running around getting a written agreement about being able to use their gun on their property from everybody that lives on four sides of it.
I don't think this stops in any way an individual on their own property hunting or shooting.
I'm not saying, but to protect myself, I better get that written agreement from my neighbor, or my neighbor finds out about this bill, and it just so happens he's suing me now because I didn't get that written agreement.
This, I don't think this opens up too many civil causes of action. I think it opens up some criminal cause of action that creates a Class C misdemeanor.
Further questions? All right, those testifying in favor, again, 2 minutes, conservative. Is there anyone here testifying in favor? Anyone testifying in opposition? Anyone for informational purposes? Informational?
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Whitney Dean, NRA. Talked to the bill sponsor report committee. 2 things. Actually, now that we've had this discussion, there's actually a few changes he's willing to make to this. One of the things that I was looking for from a perspective was to move it, because this deals with firearms violations, move it to 571, weapons offenses, That way it goes to probably the better area for that. Secondly, also allow for the use of self-defense, because this doesn't explicitly allow you to have self-defense. And this is I guess a Hatfield McCoy situation. And the representative thought it would be a good idea to include that along with Representative Bond's suggestions. And maybe that would help Representative Hansen somewhat, hopefully. But anyway, that was the only suggestion I had. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anyone else for informational? Seeing none, that will close the hearing on House Bill 883. And now open the hearing on House Bill 1203.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee. Representative Justin Hill, 108th District. Glad to be here presenting this very nonpartisan bill. I know Representative Colonna might appreciate this, but to have a Republican bring a bill like this, a firearms bill that closes the coverage gap, is exciting. All right, I thought I could get a rise out of you. Anyway, this bill, 1203, is now 1203. It's been introduced before by Representative Cox. It's introduced to basically ensure the rights of law-abiding citizens to keep their firearms legally secured in their private vehicle during working hours and to provide employers with guidelines related to these rights. Does not conflict with the CCW sections of Missouri law where property owners have the ability to post their buildings. It simply ensures the balance between the business and property owners' rights and the rights of lawful firearms owners as they arrive at their place of employment for business or commerce. So where this became problematic in a few other states, employers were firing employees for simply having their firearm locked in their vehicle on work property. And I know it's been litigated. A lot of people have been, employers have been sued in several other states, and most have been found in the plaintiff's favor. It's been overturned in the Supreme Court of Kentucky, where they ruled in favor of the employee. So, in effect, those 4 states now have laws similar to this. Among those 4 states are 12 others that already enacted legislation like this. So to reiterate, this legislation provides the proper balance between property owner of the parking lot and the property owner of the privately owned vehicle, and it is consistent with Missouri law, which allows for the transportation of firearms in a citizen's vehicle. And I'll take questions.
Questions for the bill handler? Representative Pace.
Thank you to inquire.
Go ahead.
I have one of the questions is, some parking areas, they're private property and all, they have on their lots, no firearms allowed. So that would totally, what does that do with it?
Now, they would be allowed to keep the firearm in their vehicle, but employers can still say no firearms in the building. Employers can make policy that say, okay, we understand what the state law is, but we would like you to keep them out of view and or lock them in the car or in a storage box in the car. So
It doesn't necessarily mean they have to be locked though, according to this.
If there was language, the vehicle has to be locked.
Vehicle, but not,
Yeah.
for instance, like locking it in the glove compartment or the trunk or anything, so there's no.
It says here on line 12 on page 1, or business entity be hidden from plain view or within a locked case or container within the vehicle.
Doesn't have to be locked. It's hidden from plain view or.
Yeah, or a locked case. It's an example of how the policy.
I think we could have it where it is locked. I mean, it's secured at least.
I think a locked door on a vehicle, 4 locked doors would suffice if it's out of view, especially. So, I mean, because let's face it, if someone's going to get into a locked vehicle, they're going to get in a locked container or a locked container that could be taken out of the vehicle. So.
Well, may be true, but it makes it a little more difficult too, because you have to go through 2 blocks versus 1. But thank you.
Yeah.
Further questions for the bill number? Seeing none. Anyone testify in favor?
Again, Mr. Chairman, Whitney O'Daniel, National Rifle Association, here to support Representative Hill's attempt
to continue the Stanley Cox tradition for 8 years of passing a bill like this. Although Stanley had a different variation, this one will obviously suffice. I'll take any questions.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none, put this one in favor.
I'm Jeremy Hay with Missouri Alliance of Freedom. I just want to go on record and support the bill.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for testimony. Further testimony in favor? Seeing none, anyone testifying on petition? Seeing none, anyone for information purposes? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on House Bill 1203.
Thank you.
Now move to House Bill 1061. Representative Brown.
Mr. Chairman, committee, thank you so much for hearing this bill. What this bill does is, right now in current law, that we don't classify a knife as a pocket knife that is less than 4 inches in length. Those of us that deer hunt and fish know that when you have your knife to skin a deer, gut a deer, it's over 4 inches in length. If you have your fillet knife, it's over 4 inches in length. So all this does is add language or hunting knife, whether fixed blade or folding in nature, so that the hunters will be protected, so they're not carrying what could be perceived in a court of law as an illegal weapon.
Questions from the witness, Representative Colonna.
Thank you, Chair Clark. Go ahead. Representative Brown, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Did you? Out of curiosity, did you touch base with anybody from the Prosecutors Association on this?
No, I did not.
Okay. Law enforcement personnel?
No, I did not. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that any of the law enforcement people that I know of are hunters or fishermen.
No, but you know, I can see a lot of criminals that do crimes with knives very happy if their amendment passes.
And they're already doing the crimes with the knives. It still doesn't allow you to commit a crime. I mean, well, you know, your logic, you pick up a steak knife and you can.
And if we follow that to its logical conclusion, then why do we even have laws? Because people are going to break them anyway.
Well, you know what? I mean, I'm in agreement with you there.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Further questions for the bill? Seeing none, anyone to testify in favor?
Whitney O'Daniel, National Rifle Association. We support knives. Thank you.
Just added that.
I did take.
Further, cover all witness. Seeing none, testify in favor? Seeing none, anyone to testify in petition? Seeing none, anyone for information purposes? Seeing none, that's what the House Bill 1061. Now, we're hearing on House Bill 1250. Representative Bernstein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Eric Burleson. I represent 133rd District. And you know, we, amongst our rights that we have, they include freedom of the press, as we have today, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to vote. But unusual amongst those freedoms is the Second Amendment, and that we require people, for them to express their right to the Second Amendment, that they have to pay a fee, be licensed by the state in order to protect themselves. Which is unique. We don't require a fee to express your First Amendment rights. We do for your Second Amendment. But what most people don't know about the concealed carry law in Missouri is that you do have the right to purchase a firearm and openly carry it in Missouri. You don't have to go through training. You don't have to get a permit. You have to go through training and get a permit in order to put clothing or basically put it in your pocket. And so I believe that training is important. I think that people should, whether you're voting and you're trying to educate yourself on the issues that you're voting on, or you're a member of the press, it's important to get educated. Whatever right you're going to express is very important, but we don't mandate on those. We don't mandate the amount of education that people have to express those rights, as we do in the Second Amendment. You know, the Sportsman's Caucus Chairman, Mr. Chairman, we have provided training. I've arranged year after year for training for staff members and elected office holders in this building for year after year. In fact, we've probably trained hundreds of elected officials and staff, because I think that it's extremely important to get that training. But at the end of the day, I don't think that, my view is that you should not be required. And I think the citizens also agree with that view, because in 2014, the voters of Missouri made it quite plain. The Missourians have the right to keep and bear arms, whether that weapon is visible or not to those around them. In Amendment 5 that was passed by the Missouri voters last year, it removed, if you looked at the original language in the Missouri Constitution, we had a caveat that said that people have the right to keep and bear arms, but that did not pertain, you did not have the right to conceal those arms. And that was removed in Amendment 5. So there's already court cases that are moving in this direction, the direction that this bill is likely to have. What this bill is attempting to do is likely to happen in the courts. I think that it's important to settle this in statute by the legislature, and to, rather than have to have this long drawn out process in the courts. For most people, to get the permit, the concealed carry permit, it costs $100 to take the class, and then $100 to go to your sheriff to pay for the actual permit at the sheriff's office. And but it does not, I want to make it clear that this does not remove concealed carry permits. It will still be important for citizens to get a concealed carry permit in order, because there's a lot of things that you can do with a concealed carry permit that you're not allowed to do with an open, just as openly carry. There's a lot of locations, as we heard earlier, there's a lot of places that you're prohibited from carrying in. And then there's locations that once you get a concealed carry permit, you are permitted to carry in, such as a church or other building, other locations. In addition, if you're found guilty of a violation, then the penalties are reduced if you have a concealed carry permit. Another thing that's important is that if you have a concealed carry permit, you're allowed to carry across or into other states that are participating in the same basically interstate compact related to this law. So it's still extremely important that people get the concealed carry permit, but at the end of the day, for someone to be able to protect themselves, we shouldn't require them to have to go. It shouldn't require them to have to pay a heavy penalty and pay a fee. I think that there was a time in America where it's an ugly time period where we required people to pay a fee and take a test in order to vote. And I think that was something that it's a good thing that we don't have that today. And I think it's the same way for people to simply express this right, that we should not require. And with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you, Joe Clark. I gotta be honest, Representative, I heard a little bit of, here's what my bill wants to do, and then a lot of, here's what my bill doesn't do. So I want to rephrase to make sure I understand. Presently, there's some distinction between conceal and carry and open carry, and you want to erase that distinction. Is that accurate?
So currently you can purchase a gun, or if someone, like if you inherited a gun, then you can openly carry it if you're a law-abiding citizen. But if you conceal it, you have to have a license in order to put clothing over it.
Okay.
So now if you get a concealed carry permit, then there are places that you can, with a concealed carry permit, you can go into. And then we passed a bill last year or the year before that says those places that you can go into with concealed carry, you also have the right to carry openly in those places. So what this bill does is it really brings them both together at the very beginning, that your right to openly carry, you have the right to conceal as well.
Okay. And would you have an issue with an amendment that removes the part of the statute that says municipalities, churches, whatever, can prohibit open carry or concealing carry?
I think that is a private property issue.
You would not support that amendment?
So I think that an individual, if a church chooses, that's their private property. And I think that, you know, I don't believe that what my goal is not to take away those rights, but if that church, like my church, for example, where I attend, they have actually a program where they use the lay persons of the church who have concealed carry permit in an organized way to provide security for the church. And so that's, I don't want to take away a church's right on that, or take away a decision.
The church's right to limit.
To make any decisions on their property. Or a business owner.
And I understand. I just get very confused because I heard the more guns we have, whether concealed or not, the less crime we have. And I would have thought that your church would want less crime. And if more people had guns at church, we'd have less crime in church. Because I heard we can't trust your church people to make that decision on their own. But I'm glad to hear that you agree with me. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Other questions for the bill? Seeing none, anyone testify in favor?
Of course. Mr. Chairman, Whitney Dan, NRA. Yes, sir. This is a handgun that we supported too. Just reference to the committee. This is a change, somewhat of evolution of thought for the National Rifle Association. Just this past week, the NRA supported this type of legislation in the state of Kansas that is now before Governor Brownback for his consideration and signature. While we still support the issuance of permits, this gives flexibility for someone in choosing the best way to self-defense. Thank you.
Anyone else testify in favor?
Thank you, Chairman Committee. My name is Jeremy Cady, registered lobbyist for Missouri Alliance for Freedom. I want to go on record on support of this bill as well, and I am a CCW holder, and even if this bill passes, I would continue to be because there are some benefits with it, but this just does give those citizens the freedom to carry if they so choose here in the state. So, any questions?
Questions for witness? Seeing none, further testimony in favor? Seeing none, anyone testify in opposition?
No, in favor, sir.
Didn't take a breath. For the record, my name is Ron Calzone. I am a business owner from Marius County, also a cattle rancher, and I happen also to be one of the directors of a think tank called Missouri First. We think about constitutional governance. The people's adoption in August of 2014 of Amendment 5 changed everything. As Representative Burleson pointed out, it removed a clause from the Missouri Constitution that, the Missouri Constitution, Article 1, Section 23 said you have the right to keep and bear arms. But it had said for years, but this right shall not justify the wearing of concealed weapons. That clause was removed with the adoption of Amendment 5. And so it stands to reason that if you have a right to keep and bear arms, and it's not restricted by a clause like that, you have the right to keep and bear arms openly, you have the right to keep and bear arms concealed, you have the right to keep and bear arms. And so what the representative is doing with House Bill 1250 is simply getting statutes in sync with the Missouri Constitution as adopted by the people by a 61% vote in August of 2014. I might also point out that another clause in
Amendment 5 is one that says that the state of Missouri shall be obligated to uphold these rights to keep their arms, and shall under no circumstance decline to protect against their infringement. And so currently we have a statute that infringes because it does not allow you to carry weapons concealed without a permit. And I would suggest that the measure that you put before the voters, and the voters adopted by an overwhelming margin, is saying that you have a responsibility to step up to the plate and defend their right to carry concealed weapons, even without saying whether may I to the state and going through the permitting process.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anyone else testify in favor? Brett? Seeing none, anyone else testify in opposition? Anyone testify for information purposes? Seeing none, 12:50, and we adjourn.
I don't know if I don't know if it's anywhere. Always pleasure.
Sherman? Sherman Summer?